These fish kebabs make a delicious light lunch or a really nice fun starter. I'm going to start by steaming my fish and I'm just going to do that in here. So I've got my pan with some water in it that's already starting to heat up. The first thing I'm going to do is just very quickly just marinate my fish with some lemon juice and some garlic. And all I'm going to do is just squeeze that in there. And with a lot of Indian cooking, you tend to use lemon juice with fish because it gives that lovely zingy flavour, but it also takes away what they say are the almost like the raw aromatics of fish. So I'm just going to squeeze that in. And the fish I'm using is, I like to use a mixture of a white fish and a slightly more oily fish. So I've got some salmon in here as well. And I think the combination of the two works much better than just using a white fish on its own. So I've just put some lemon juice on there. I'm also going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on there too. I'm just going to steam the fish. So I've got my water here. I'm just turning that up so that it starts to boil a little bit. And I'm going to pop the salmon straight into my steamer. Don't worry about pips or anything like that because we can get rid of those later. I'm also going to put the outside of the lemon in just for a little bit more fragrance. I'm just going to pop that straight on to my steamer. As well as that, I'm going to just very roughly crush some garlic, which I'm going to put in there. Just roughly chop it up. You don't need to be precise, so I'm going to use 3 here. Pop that in, just push it all the way around. I'm just going to leave the fish for about 5 minutes just to get that lemon juice, the salt and the garlic just infusing through. My fish is steamed through, so I've just emptied it into a large bowl just to let it cool down a little bit. The garlic should be nice and soft, but I'm just going to get rid of the lemon, which we don't need anymore. So I'm going to pop that to one side and let that just cool. Whilst my fish is cooling down, I've just put a frying pan on the hob just to warm it through. And what I'm going to do, and this is probably going to sound a little bit weird, is I'm just going to toast off some gram flour just by putting it directly into a frying pan without any oil or anything like that. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in there. And the reason that I'm doing that is I just want it to cook through slightly because this is going to go into the kebabs. And what I don't want to happen is I don't want to have almost like a raw floury taste. By toasting the gram flour, I'm also going to get a slight nuttiness to it as well. So I know it sounds odd, but honestly, it will add to the end flavour of your dish. So just give that a toast. It's quite important that you don't burn it. It will take a few minutes, and what will happen is it will go just a touch, slight shade darker, but you'll start to get almost like a very sweet fragrance coming off it, and that's when you know that it's ready. So sort of keep it moving. Whilst my gram flour is toasting away, I'm going to blitz the fish in a blender because I want to make a nice thick paste with it. I'm not going to use it all. I'm going to use probably 2/3 of it, and the rest of the fish I'm going to leave as quite chunky because I'll mix that in later just for a little bit of texture. So pop that into a blender. Put the lid on and just give it a blitz. And that looks pretty good. So I don't want a puree or anything, I just want to break it all down. So if I take my blade out, I'm going to pop all of this back into my bowl. Okay, that's looking really lovely now. So I'm going to give that all a stir through. And that's what I'm going to start to add my spices into. So just coming back to the flour, I can smell that it's toasted because there's that slightly sweet aromatic in the air. So I'm just going to turn that off and leave that for a minute. The spices that I'm going to put into here, I'm going to first of all grate some ginger in, probably about 3 centimetres worth or a tablespoon. So just grate that in. You don't need to worry about peeling it because it just adds a little bit of texture. All I've done is washed it and just grated it straight in. It smells really fresh, it's lovely. I'm going to put in a teaspoon or half a teaspoon of turmeric, just for a little bit of colour. I'm also going to chop up probably a couple of chillies because I like this fairly fiery. And I'm going to chop them up really nice and finely. I don't want great big chunks in there. I'm just going to go over that again so that the chillies are really nice and fine. There we go, and that's what I'm looking for, that lovely, so all the seeds, everything's all broken down. I'm just going to pop that in. So I'm just going to put in my coriander, and what that's going to do is give a really lovely freshness. That, along with the lemon juice and so on, is going to give a beautiful freshness to that dish. Right, so when we're at this stage, just stir everything through. If you want to, you can also add a little bit of chilli powder in there as well, just for a little bit more of a bite, but you don't have to. So once we're at this stage, I'm going to start to just very gently sprinkle my gram flour in. And that's going to start to bring the mixture together a bit. There we go. You see it starts to get a little bit squidgy. You can hear it starting to get squidgy. I'm just going to taste it a little bit because I know that the fish is cooked through. I just want to taste it for seasoning because I've got a feeling it's probably going to need a little bit more salt. Yeah. I'm just going to add just half a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to crack a little bit of pepper. And that's it. I'm happy with that. It's looking really lovely, all of those beautiful colours. I'm just going to scrape off that last bit on the spoon, and I'm just going to pop that into the fridge for 15 minutes just for all those flavours to come together. My fish mixture is already, it's nice and cool, so what I'm going to do is just wet my hands a little bit and start making those kebabs. I always do this with wet hands just because it helps you to form the patties really nicely and it stops things sticking to your fingers. So you just want to take a small ball and start to form almost like a 5 centimetre kebab in diameter. So that's what you're looking for. Try and be quite compact with it because you don't want it to fall to pieces once it goes in the pan. And just continue to make them all. You'll probably get a good 7 or 8 out of this. Always aim for an odd number because then you can always try one before you serve them up. There we go. Whilst I'm making these, I've got some mustard oil heating. I've brought it up to smoking temperature and then I've just cooled it down just so that it cools off and it's ready for me to fry my kebabs on. And the reason that you take your mustard oil up to a smoking temperature is just to get rid of any impurities that are in the oil. And I like to use mustard oil when I'm cooking with fish just because the combination of the fish and the mustard is really quite delicious and they go together really well. There we go. And there we go. Those are my fish kebabs ready to fry. And I'm just going to go and wash my hands and start frying those up. The oil is lovely and hot. I'm just going to pop in my first one. I want these to go beautifully crisp on the outside and lovely and soft in the middle. It'll take a few minutes for them to crisp up. What I tend to do is just tilt the pan a little bit because that helps to coat around the edge as well. I like to serve these in lots of different ways. Sometimes I put them in a burger bun. Sometimes I serve them with spicy wedges, sometimes just with a plain salad, sometimes with a mango salsa. So they're quite versatile. You can use them in lots of different ways. But one thing they do have is that they have lots of flavour in there. So you won't be disappointed. I'm just going to have a look at the other side. Look at that, that's beautiful. Lovely golden brown, that's what we're looking for. So I'm just going to turn them all over very gently, just so you don't get splashed by that hot oil. Look at those, they look absolutely wonderful. So I'm just going to cook those on the other side again for about a couple of minutes, really, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just until they go that lovely crispy golden brown colour on the other side as well. The fish kebabs are ready. They're lovely and golden, crisp on the outside. So I'm just going to take those out and just pop them onto some kitchen roll just to drain away any extra oil that there might be on there. They are smelling wonderful. Look at those. They're really crunchy and crisp, but I can tell they're lovely and soft in the middle as well. So there you have it. Some really quick and easy to make, lovely fish kebabs that are great for a lunch, a beautiful little starter. But I'm going to serve mine up with a lovely spicy tomato salsa.